There is someone who has been watching you, not in a way that should unsettle you, but in a way that should make you pause and truly breathe for a moment. This person has been paying attention to you with a level of depth and sincerity that most people never experience from another human being in their entire lifetime. They have not been watching your highlight moments or your greatest achievements. They have not been drawn to you because of your perfection or because of the image you carefully present to the outside world. What they have seen goes so much further than any of that. They have observed the real you, the version of you that exists in the quiet, unguarded, and completely honest moments of your life. And from everything they have witnessed, from everything they have genuinely come to understand about who you truly are at your core, they have arrived at something profound. They want to marry you. This video is not about flattery. It is not about telling you what you want to hear simply to make you feel good for a few passing minutes. What is being shared here today carries real emotional weight and a perspective that has the genuine power to completely shift the way you see yourself, the way you understand love, and the quiet but extraordinary strength that others recognize in you, even when you cannot see it in yourself. What most people see when they look at you is someone who has it together. They see capability. They see composure. They see someone who handles things, who shows up, who manages whatever life places in front of them without falling apart publicly. And because you do it so consistently and so quietly, most people have simply accepted that version of you as the complete picture. But this person has never accepted that surface reading as the whole truth. They notice when your energy shifts in a room, even when your expression stays perfectly steady. They hear something different in your voice. On the days when you are carrying more than usual, a subtle flatness, a slight distance that most people walk right past without a second thought. They have seen you go quiet in moments where the weight of everything becomes just a little too heavy. And they have never once mistaken that withdrawal for weakness or indifference. They understand it for exactly what it is: strength that has been working overtime for far too long without rest. What makes this awareness so significant is that it does not come from a place of pity. This person is not watching you with the intention of rescuing you or positioning themselves as someone you need. They are watching you with deep admiration and an honest desire to stand beside you, to be the one person in your life who truly knows what you carry and chooses to stay anyway. What this person feels for you is not the kind of love that comes with hidden conditions or unspoken expectations. It is not motivated by what they stand to gain from being close to you. They are not approaching you with the intention of fixing something they perceive as broken, and they are not reaching toward you because there is an emptiness inside them that they are hoping you will fill. That distinction matters enormously because it separates what they feel from so much of what you may have encountered before. previous connections may have carried that subtle but exhausting undertone where love felt transactional, where your strength was admired but also quietly taken advantage of, where vulnerability felt risky because it changed how someone saw you. This is fundamentally different. This person looks at everything you are and feels genuine admiration without the accompanying urge to possess or redirect you. They want to create something with you that feels safe enough for you to finally set down some of what you have been carrying alone. Not because they think you cannot handle it, but because they believe you should not have to handle all of it by yourself anymore. They see someone remarkably capable standing in front of them, and their response is not to take over or take credit. Their response is to ask how they can stand beside you, to share the weight honestly, and to build something together that is rooted in mutual respect and real empathy. When this person thinks about marriage with you, their mind does not go to ceremonies or appearances or the version of a relationship that looks impressive from the outside. What they think about is something far more grounded and far more meaningful than any of that. They think about the ordinary Tuesday morning when exhaustion has settled into your bones before the day has even properly begun, and what it would mean to be there with you in that moment. They think about the nights when something painful surfaces without warning, when an old memory or a quiet grief finds its way back to you, and how much it would matter to simply be present beside you rather than leaving you to navigate that alone. They think about the moments when everything feels like too much at once, when the pressure of responsibilities and expectations and the sheer weight of keeping everything moving threatens to become completely overwhelming. In those moments, their instinct is not to observe from a distance. It is to step forward, to handle what can be handled, to protect your peace, not as a grand gesture, but as a quiet and consistent daily choice. Their vision of marriage is two people who have genuinely agreed to divide the weight of life between them. It is a partnership where neither person is left holding everything alone, where stability is not conditional, and where showing up for each other is not the exception, but simply the foundation everything else is built upon. You may have noticed something that has left you uncertain. Perhaps there have been moments that felt significant, moments that carried a particular weight or warmth, and yet this person has not stepped forward with the clarity you might have expected or hoped for. That silence can be confusing. It can even feel like doubt or disinterest if you are reading it from the outside without the full context of what is actually happening within them. But what you are interpreting as hesitation is something else entirely. This person is not holding back because they are unsure about you. They are holding back because they are completely sure about what love requires, and they refuse to approach you with anything less than that. They have watched people make promises too quickly and too carelessly. They have seen what happens when someone steps forward before they are genuinely ready. And they will not be another person in your life who arrives with beautiful words and insufficient follow-through. Their fear is not a fear of you. It is a fear of failing you. It is a fear rooted in profound respect for everything you are and everything you deserve. They understand that you have likely already experienced disappointment that cost you something real, and they are not willing to add to that history carelessly. So they are preparing themselves with intention and integrity, determined that when they do step forward, every word they speak will be something they can genuinely stand behind completely. There is a kind of work you do every single day that almost nobody acknowledges because it leaves no visible evidence behind. You listen when others need to be heard, often setting aside whatever you yourself are carrying in that moment to make room for someone else's weight. You show up for people even on the days when your own reserves are dangerously low, when you are running on something closer to habit and commitment than actual energy. You hold space for others with a generosity that most people accept without ever stopping to consider what it costs you. This person sees that invisible labor with complete clarity. They understand the mental load that accumulates quietly, the emotional calculations you make constantly, the way you manage not just your own experience, but the emotional atmosphere of the people around you. And they do not take it for granted. What they want more than almost anything is to give you somewhere to put all of that down. They want to be the space where you no longer have to perform capability or composure, where you can be tired without needing to apologize for it, where asking for help does not feel like a risk or an admission of failure. They do not look at you and see someone fragile who needs protecting from themselves. They look at you and feel something close to awe at your endurance, your emotional depth, and your extraordinary capacity to keep loving people genuinely, even after love has cost you something significant. This person does not approach love casually. Every interaction they have with you carries intention behind it. The way they pay attention when you speak, the way certain glances linger just a moment longer than necessary, the way their words are chosen carefully rather than offered carelessly. None of that is accidental. They are building something deliberately, laying down trust and safety in small, consistent increments because they understand that real security between two people is never constructed through grand, dramatic gestures alone. It is built slowly and quietly through showing up the same way repeatedly over time. They think about what it would mean to stand in front of the hard things with you, rather than beside you or behind you. Not to block your strength or diminish your capability, but to ensure that you are not always positioned as the first line of defense against everything difficult that life sends in your direction. They want to absorb some of what comes before it reaches you, to be a genuine buffer rather than an additional responsibility. And their understanding of what love actually looks like in practice is refreshingly grounded. It lives in making sure your coffee is ready on a morning when you are already overwhelmed. It lives in noticing the particular quiet that settles over you when something is wrong before you have said a single word about it. It lives in consistency, in presence, in the 1,000 small moments that accumulate into something that genuinely feels like home. This person is not coming to you with a vision of love that requires you to become something different from what you already are. They are not carrying a quiet agenda to smooth out your edges or redirect you toward a version of yourself that feels more comfortable for them to be around. What they want is to grow alongside you, and that distinction changes everything. Their picture of marriage is not borrowed from dramatic portrayals of love that prioritize intensity and passion above everything else. They are not chasing the version of a relationship that looks extraordinary from the outside, but feels unstable and exhausting from within. What genuinely appeals to them is something quieter and far more sustaining. Shared routines that become the rhythm of a life built together. Quiet evenings where nothing particularly significant is happening, and yet everything feels exactly right. Small, consistent moments of connection that accumulate into something neither of you could have built alone. They understand that real growth between two people happens through honest conversations that are not always easy, through genuine self-examination, through the willingness to look at your own patterns and ask whether they are serving the partnership or undermining it. They are prepared for that work, and they are not frightened by it. To them, stability is not the absence of depth. It is the deepest expression of love available. The daily choice to remain present, to keep showing up, and to build something together that genuinely lasts. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from consistently loving people at a depth they were never able to meet you at, from giving generously and openly while quietly hoping that this time the energy would be returned with the same sincerity, from being the person who understood everyone around them while moving through life with the private ache of feeling genuinely misunderstood yourself. If any of that resonates with something real in your experience, it is important that you hear this clearly. That history is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of the limitations of the people who could not rise to what you were offering them. This person understands that history, even if you have never spoken it aloud to them directly. And their intention is not to simply do slightly better than what came before. Their intention is to replace the inconsistency you have known with something steady and reliable enough that you eventually stop bracing for disappointment as a default. They want to replace the confusion that comes from mixed signals and unclear intentions, with a clarity that makes you feel genuinely secure. On your hardest days, especially when doubt creeps in and old patterns of thinking try to convince you that you're asking for too much, they want to be the living evidence that you are not. With them, you will never have to read between lines or wonder quietly where you actually stand. Most relationships begin with something transactional underneath the surface, even when neither person is fully conscious of it. People are drawn together by excitement, or by the validation that comes from being chosen, or by the way another person makes them feel about themselves in those early elevated moments. What this person feels for you does not have that foundation. It is not built on what being with you does for their image or their sense of self. It is built entirely on who you actually are when none of that surface energy is present. They have noticed things about you that require genuine attention to see. The way you pause before you speak, because you are actually considering your words rather than simply filling silence. The way you absorb difficult emotional information from others and carry it quietly without making it about yourself. The way your instinct to prioritize the people you care about operates almost automatically, as though consideration for others is simply built into how you move through the world. These are the things that created something profound in them, not your achievements or your appearance or the life you have constructed. The actual texture of who you are. And this love does not arrive with a request for you to edit any part of yourself. Your history, your struggles, the places where life has marked you, your quiet resilience through things that would have diminished someone else entirely. They respect all of it completely and without reservation. What this person wants to offer you is something that should feel fundamentally different from anything that has tried to diminish or redirect your independence in the past. They are not threatened by your strength. They do not experience your capability or your self-reliance as something that needs to be managed or quietly undermined to make them feel more necessary to you. Your independence is not a problem they are trying to solve. It is one of the things they admire most genuinely about who you are. The love they are bringing to you is designed to work alongside everything you have already built within yourself, rather than in competition with it. They want to stand beside your strength, not in front of it in a way that blocks your light, but beside it in a way that adds something real without taking anything away. In practical terms, this means stepping forward when challenges appear so that you are not always absorbing the first impact alone. It means protecting your emotional space with the same seriousness that you have always protected everyone else's. It means providing a stability that does not come attached to conditions or expectations that quietly accumulate into pressure over time. And when vulnerability finds its way to the surface, as it eventually does for every human being, regardless of how capable they They want you to experience that as something completely safe, not as a risk, not as a weakness, but as the natural and honored expression of trust between two people who have chosen each other fully. When this person imagines a life with you, their mind settles on moments that most people would consider unremarkable. They think about waking up beside you on a morning when the weight of everything feels present before the day has even started, and what it would mean to simply be there in that quiet space with you. Not with solutions or with forced optimism, but with a steady and unhurried presence that communicates without words, that you do not have to face the morning alone. They think about the comfortable silence that exists between two people who have learned each other deeply enough that conversation is not always necessary to feel genuinely connected. They think about the unexpected laughter that surfaces after an exhausting day, the kind that arrives without warning and releases something that had been held too tightly for too long. Their love is not abstract. It expresses itself through actions that are tangible and consistent and quietly meaningful. A meal prepared on an evening when cooking feels like one demand too many. Listening without the urge to immediately fix or reframe what you are sharing. A hand held, not as a grand romantic gesture, but as a simple and honest reassurance that they are present and they are not going anywhere. These are the moments they are building toward. Not the extraordinary ones, but the ordinary ones repeated with enough consistency and enough genuine care that they eventually become the architecture of something that feels completely and permanently like home. There are people who encounter your strength and feel something uncomfortable rise in them, an instinct to compete with it or diminish it, or create situations where you need them in ways that feel more manageable to their own insecurities. This person is not built that way. What they feel when they witness your independence and your quiet determination is not discomfort. It is something much closer to inspiration. The way you continue moving forward through circumstances that would justify stopping entirely. The way you maintain a fundamental gentleness in how you treat people, even after the world has given you legitimate reasons to become harder and more guarded. The way you have held onto a belief in real and meaningful connection, despite the experiences that have tested that belief in ways that were genuinely costly to you. That kind of courage is not something they take lightly. They find themselves wanting to be worthy of standing beside it. Your self-reliance does not push them away or make them feel unnecessary. It draws them closer because they understand what it represents. They know that someone with your level of capability choosing to invite another person into their life is not a small thing. It is a significant and considered act of trust. They do not see your resilience as a burden they would be inheriting or or a challenge they would need to manage. They see it as one of the most compelling and investment-worthy qualities they have ever had the privilege of witnessing in another person. What this person wants to be in your life has very little to do with dramatic declarations and everything to do with a quality that is genuinely rare and genuinely valuable. They want to be the calm that becomes available to you when the noise inside your own mind gets too loud to think clearly through. Not by dismissing what you are feeling or rushing you toward resolution, but by offering a steadiness that gives you somewhere solid to stand while you find your footing again. They want to notice the fatigue before you have to announce it, to read the particular way exhaustion settles into your posture or your silence, and respond to it practically without waiting to be asked. Handling what can be handled. Quietly removing friction from your day in ways that create genuine breathing room rather than additional obligation. Their intention is to make rest feel like a natural and accessible part of your daily life, rather than something you have to earn or schedule around everyone else's needs. And what they are building toward is not something that peaks early and gradually loses its reliability. They understand that the kind of presence they want to be for you deepens over time as trust accumulates and understanding between two people becomes more layered and more honest. They are committed to being someone whose steadiness you can count on, not just in the beginning when everything feels new, but consistently and without condition as the years move forward together. What this person is working toward creating with you is a space that most people spend their entire lives searching for without ever quite finding. A space where you do not have to carefully manage how much of yourself you reveal based on how you think it will be received. Where you do not have to perform a particular version of yourself to maintain someone's interest or approval. Where the full and unedited reality of your experience, the pain alongside the joy, the uncertainty alongside the confidence, is not something that needs to be justified or explained before it is accepted. They want to be the person you can bring your actual weight to, not the curated version of your struggles that you have learned to present in ways that feel safe and digestible to others, but the real thing. The exhaustion that has been accumulating quietly for longer than you have probably admitted, even to yourself. The grief that surfaces unexpectedly. The fears that feel too significant to speak aloud in most company. They will not flinch at any of it. They will not attempt to redirect you toward something more comfortable for them to sit with. They understand that vulnerability is not a fragility to be managed. It is an act of profound trust, and they intend to honor it as such every single time. With them, the tension you have been holding in your body and your heart for so long will finally have somewhere safe and worthy to be released. Everything shared in this video has been pointing toward a single truth that is worth carrying with you long after this ends. There is a love approaching your life that is not interested in the polished and composed version of you that the world most commonly sees. It has been built on genuine observation, on noticing the things you never announced, on understanding the weight you carry, and choosing to move toward you because of it rather than despite it. This love is rare in the most literal sense. It does not arrive with conditions or with a quiet agenda to reshape you into something more convenient. It arrives with patience and integrity and a vision of partnership that is grounded in real daily life rather than idealized fantasy. It sees your history without judgment. It admires your resilience without romanticizing your pain. It chooses you completely and without reservation, not because you are perfect, but because you are genuinely and irreplaceably yourself. As you move forward from this moment, trust what consistency shows you. Trust presence over promises and aligned actions over beautiful words. You are worth exactly the kind of love this video has described, and you do not need to shrink or perform or wait until you feel more deserving of it. If this message reached something real inside you today, please like this video and subscribe to this channel. Share it with someone who needs to hear it, and explore the related content waiting for you here about love, self-worth, and building connections that genuinely last.